My wife cheated on me with our neighbor, then forged my signature to sell off our $950, $0 family home, and now she's claiming I owed her $200, $0 in spousal debts, all while litigation drags on, and I discover she's been siphoning money from our joint accounts. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife turned out to be not just a cheating bitch, but also a total con artist. It all started with little things, small signs that I brushed off at first: missing cash, late nights she claimed were work dinners, and her suddenly tight-lipped attitude whenever I asked about her phone. But then, one night, I caught her red-handed. It was around 11 p.m., and I was just about to go to bed when I noticed her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. Nothing unusual, except the name on the screen was Jake. I didn't know anyone named Jake in her circle, so I figured I'd check her messages. I grabbed her phone, unlocked it, which I normally wouldn't do, but I was suspicious. And what I saw made my stomach drop. There were dozens of texts between her and Jake, the neighbor, the guy who lives 2 doors down. They weren't just chatting about the weather or gardening like neighbors. No, these messages were dirty, flirtatious, full of innuendo. They were talking about meeting up, about how much they wanted each other, and even plans for sneaking away when I was at work or out of town. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted, was screwing our neighbor, Jake, right under my nose. I stared at her phone screen, trying to process what I was seeing, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? Was it just sex or something more? Did she love him? Did she ever love me? I didn't wake her up that night. I just sat in the dark, holding her phone, feeling numb. The betrayal hit me hard, but what made it worse was knowing she'd lie her way out of it if I confronted her. Sure enough, the next morning she acted innocent, like I was crazy for even suspecting. "You're paranoid," she said with that bitchy smirk. "You're just jealous because I work late sometimes." But I wasn't buying it. I knew there was more. And I also started noticing other things: her spending more money than usual, hiding receipts, deleting texts. The signs were there, but I didn't want to believe it. I loved her. I wanted to believe she was just stressed or having a rough patch. But deep down, I knew I was dealing with a different person altogether. Then came the shocker that changed everything. I found out she had forged my signature on a document and sold our family home, our $950, $0 house. I discovered this when I got a call from the bank asking about a transfer I never authorized. That's when I realized she'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts too. All the while, she was out screwing Jake and lying to me about her business trips. It was like living with a double life, and I was the last to know. The worst part: she's now claiming I owe her $200, $0 in spousal debts, which she's trying to use as leverage in the legal mess. Meanwhile, I'm uncovering more lies. She's been secretly laundering money, hiding bank statements, and even trying to manipulate court to get her way. I felt betrayed on every level: emotionally, financially, and morally. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. That's how it all started. I thought I was in a stable marriage, and suddenly I was drowning in a mess of lies, betrayal, and financial chaos. I didn't know what to do at first, but I knew one thing: I had to find out the truth, no matter how ugly it was. After discovering her affair and the financial mess she'd created, I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. My mind was racing, trying to process everything at once. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her messages with Jake, the way she lied about her business trips, the look on her face when I confronted her. It was like my life had been turned upside down overnight. The first thing I did was dig into her phone more. I needed proof, something concrete I could hold onto when I confronted her again. I found even more texts, explicit ones, plans to meet up, promises of not getting caught. She'd been doing all this behind my back for months, maybe longer. I also discovered she'd been deleting some messages, but I was quick enough to take screenshots before she could wipe everything. I started looking into the financial side of things. That's when I found out she'd forged my signature on the deed to sell our house. I couldn't believe it. Our family home, our biggest investment, the place I thought we'd raise kids and grow old together, was gone. She sold it for a fraction of its value, and I was left with nothing but a legal mess and a sinking feeling of betrayal. I reached out to a lawyer the next day. I needed to understand my rights, but even as I did, I felt the weight of everything crashing down on me. She lied about everything, her whereabouts, her finances, her feelings. And now she was claiming I owed her $200, $0 in spousal debts. That was her way of trying to cover her tracks, I was sure of it. She's always been manipulative, but this was next level. I confronted her again, this time with the lawyer on the phone and all the evidence I'd gathered. When I showed her the screenshots, her face twisted into that bitchy smirk. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I had no proof. That's when I saw her eyes flicker. She was lying and she knew it. She tried to spin it, saying I was jealous, insecure, that she needed freedom and space to do her thing. Yeah, right. She's the one sneaking around, not me. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt angry, humiliated, hurt, like I'd been played for a fool. I'd trusted her with everything. Our life savings, our home, my heart. And she'd used me, lied to my face, and now she was trying to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. Every time I thought about how she'd been with Jake, I'd get sick to my stomach. How could she do this to me? How could she be so cold and manipulative? But I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her win. I started documenting everything, dates, amounts, conversations, everything I could find. I couldn't let her manipulate the situation or spin her lies. I also began secretly recording her when she didn't know. I wasn't planning to be the victim anymore. I was going to get to the truth and fight back. In the meantime, she kept up her act, acting like the perfect victim, crying, pretending she was so sorry, claiming she'd never cheat on me. She even told friends and family I was paranoid and jealous, trying to make me look like the bad guy. But I knew better. I was seeing her for what she was, a lying, cheating, money-grubbing manipulator. I started to realize this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about control, greed, and betrayal. She wanted the house, the money, the power, and she was willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get it. I'd never felt so betrayed in my life, and I knew I had to act fast before she completely drained whatever was left of our life savings or worse. I'm still in the thick of it now, trying to piece everything together and figure out my next move. But one thing's clear. I won't let her get away with this. I've got enough evidence to fight her in court, and I plan to do just that. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll never trust her again. Once I had the initial shock wear off, I realized I was sitting on a mountain of problems. Not just the heartbreak of betrayal, but the looming legal and financial chaos she dragged me into. Her claim that I owed her $200, $0 in spousal debts, was just another way to keep me off balance. I knew I had to get a handle on everything fast. I hired a forensic accountant to dig through our joint accounts. What I found was staggering. She'd been siphoning money for months, small amounts at first, then larger transfers. It was like watching a slow leak turn into a flood. She moved hundreds of thousands into her personal accounts, some of it going into cash withdrawals, some into shady investments I'd never heard of. The money was gone, and I had no idea how deep she'd gone until I saw the bank statements. Meanwhile, I was still trying to wrap my head around what she'd done to the house. I found out she'd forged my signature on a deed and sold it off to some shady buyer. Our family home, our biggest asset, was now in someone else's name. The sale went through months ago and I had no idea. I felt like I'd been punched again. How could she do this? How could she betray me so completely and then try to pretend she was innocent? I confronted her about the money and the house. Her reaction was classic. She yelled, accused me of being controlling, paranoid, jealous. She told me I was crazy for thinking she'd do something so terrible. She said she was entitled to the money because she deserved it after all she'd been through. She claimed she was just trying to protect herself from me. That was rich coming from someone who'd been secretly screwing the neighbor and stealing from our joint accounts. The more I dug, the more I saw how deep her lies went. She'd been telling friends she was under a lot of stress, that I was abusive, and that she needed freedom. Meanwhile, she was living a double life, sex with Jake, siphoning our savings, forging documents. It was like I was living in a nightmare. Every day I found out something new, and every day I felt more betrayed. I started to realize that her lies weren't just about the money or the affair. She'd been manipulating everyone around her, family, friends, even the lawyers. She'd spun stories about how I was unstable or controlling, trying to turn everyone against me. It was disgusting, but I refused to be her pawn anymore. I kept gathering evidence, recording her when she thought I wasn't looking, saving all the bank statements, copying emails. I wasn't going to let her win. One night, I caught her in a lie that was the final straw. She told me she was going out with her girlfriends, but I saw her sneaking out of the house at midnight. I followed her discreetly, and what I saw confirmed everything. She was with Jake at his place, kissing and touching. I watched from a distance, heart pounding. That moment I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. I had to fight back for myself and for whatever was left of our life. I started talking to a divorce attorney. I wanted to get full custody of our kids, protect what was left of our money, and expose her for what she was. I knew she'd fight me tooth and nail. She always did, so I prepared myself for a battle. I also hired a private investigator to get more concrete proof of her ongoing affair and her financial schemes. I needed hard evidence, not just my suspicions. Throughout all this chaos, I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disgust. I was angry she'd lied to me for so long, that she'd betrayed everything we'd built. I was sad because I still loved her, or at least I did once. And I was disgusted by how she'd used me, played me for a fool, and now tried to manipulate the legal system to her advantage. But I also realized something. This wasn't just about revenge or punishment. It was about protecting myself, my future, and whatever dignity I had left. I couldn't let her destroy everything I worked for. I had to fight to get my life back. The road ahead was going to be long, messy, and painful, but I knew I couldn't just sit back and let her walk all over me anymore. I was done being the victim. It was time to take control, even if that meant tearing apart everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The legal process has been a nightmare. I never thought I'd be in court fighting to get back what's mine and stop her from bleeding me dry. The more I uncovered about what she did, selling the house behind my back, siphoning money, forging signatures, the clearer it became that she was willing to burn everything down just to get her way. I had to act fast or I'd lose everything I'd worked for. I filed for divorce, and from there things got ugly fast. She hired her own lawyer, of course, and started throwing accusations left and right. Her main claim: that I was unstable, abusive, and that I was secretly trying to ruin her. She told the courts I was jealous of her affair with Jake, that I was controlling because I questioned her whereabouts. It was all a bunch of lies, but lying is her game. She's good at it. Meanwhile, I had a mountain of evidence. I handed over the bank statements showing her siphoning money, the forged deed, the texts with Jake, and the recordings I'd made when she didn't know. I also had the private investigator's report confirming her ongoing affair. It was enough to blow her whole house of cards apart, but she fought dirty. She accused me of harassment, stalking, and claimed I was trying to ruin her reputation. The court hearings were intense. She sat there looking smug, trying to spin her lies. She claimed she was the victim, that I was abusive and controlling, all while her lawyer argued that she deserved the house because I was an unstable man. I could see right through her. She was trying to manipulate the judge, trying to make herself out to be the victim. But I had the evidence, and I was determined to get justice. The most shocking moment came when they ordered her to produce her financial records. She hesitated, then finally handed over a stack of bank statements, most of which were redacted or missing. I knew she was hiding something. That's when I hired a forensic accountant to dig even deeper. Turns out, the amount she'd stolen was even bigger than I thought. She'd been hiding millions in offshore accounts and shell companies. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone. The emotional toll was brutal. Every day I felt like I was fighting for my life. Seeing her in court, acting like she was the innocent victim, made me sick. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd betrayed me, but I kept quiet. I had to play it smart. I knew she was trying to manipulate the system to get what she wanted. My job was to stay calm, gather evidence, and expose her lies. The legal battle dragged on for months. During that time, I also discovered she'd been secretly trying to transfer assets into her name, trying to hide her true financial situation. She'd been draining our accounts, making it impossible for me to get a clear picture of what was left. I felt like I was fighting a ghost. Every move she made, she was trying to outsmart me, but I refused to give up. I knew the truth would come out eventually. One day, I finally got a court order to freeze her offshore accounts. That was a turning point. She screamed, called me vindictive, but I didn't care. I was just happy I was finally stopping her from running away with everything. The judge also ordered her to pay back some of the stolen money, and I was awarded temporary custody of the kids. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Through all this chaos, I learned a lot about betrayal, lies, and the importance of standing up for yourself. I realized that people aren't always what they seem, and sometimes the ones you love the most are capable of the worst. I also learned that no matter how dark things get, you can't give up. You have to fight for your rights, your dignity, and your future. Honestly, I'm not sure what the final outcome will be. This fight isn't over yet, but I'm confident I'll get through it. I just wish I'd seen the signs sooner. If there's one thing I can tell anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, and don't let anyone manipulate or lie their way out of accountability. Sometimes, you have to take control, even if it costs you everything. The aftermath of the court battles and legal chaos has left me drained but also a little bit stronger. At least, I hope so. I've managed to piece together most of what she's been doing behind my back, but the damage is done. Our life savings are wiped out, the house is gone, and I'm left with the emotional scars of betrayal that cut deeper than I ever thought possible. One of the hardest parts is seeing how she's trying to manipulate the situation even now. She's claiming I'm the villain, saying I was abusive, jealous, controlling, anything to turn the court and our friends against me. I know her game. She's always been good at twisting the truth to serve her own ends. But now, with everything I've gathered, I refuse to let her get away with it. I've been documenting her every move, every lie, and I've got enough evidence to expose her fully. The kids are another complicated issue. She's been trying to paint herself as the poor victim, claiming I'm unfit to care for them because of my mental state. I know better. I've been trying to stay calm, but inside I'm furious. I want what's best for them: stability, honesty, and a father who loves them. The courts are leaning toward me for custody, but she's already started the smear campaign, and I know she'll fight dirty to keep them away from me. That's the last thing I want to be kept from my kids because of her lies. Financially, I'm rebuilding from scratch. I've had to get a new job, cut expenses, and try to recover what I can. The house is gone, and she's still trying to claim I owe her money, but I've got enough evidence to counter her claims. It's a constant battle, but I'm determined not to let her destroy me completely. I've started working with a financial advisor to protect what little I have left and plan on filing for full financial disclosure from her. I want to make sure she doesn't get away with hiding any more assets. On a personal level, I've gone through of emotions. There are days I feel angry, days I feel hopeless, and days I just want to forget everything. But I also feel a strange sense of relief, like I finally see her for who she really is. I thought I knew her, but she's been a stranger in disguise for years. I've learned that trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. The biggest lesson for me has been to never ignore the warning signs, no matter how small they seem. I've also realized I need to focus on myself and rebuilding my life. Therapy has helped me process everything, and I've started to reconnect with old friends I'd pushed aside. The support has been invaluable. I've all started dating again, cautiously. It's hard to trust someone new after all this, but I know I don't want to live in the past forever. I need to move forward for my own sanity and for my kids' future. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. I wish I'd recognized her manipulation and lies before everything spiraled out of control. But I also know I can't change the past. All I can do now is focus on what's ahead. I want to rebuild my life on honesty, integrity, and strength, things I thought I had before, but clearly I was naive. So if anyone out there is going through something similar, my advice is this: don't ignore the red flags, trust your instincts, document everything, And don't be afraid to fight for what's right, even if it costs you everything. Because in the end, the truth will come out and you have to be ready to stand tall. I've learned that the hard way. Now, I just hope I can finally start healing and find some peace. Something I never thought I'd get after everything she put me through. Now that the dust has started to settle, I find myself reflecting more than ever on what this nightmare has taught me. It's been a brutal journey, one filled with betrayal, financial ruin, and emotional upheaval, but also one that's forced me to see things clearly for the first time in years. I used to think love meant trusting blindly, but now I know that trust has to be earned, and people can surprise you in the worst ways when you're not paying attention. Living through her lies, her manipulation, and her outright theft has changed me. I've become more cautious, more guarded, but also more determined. I finally understand the importance of safeguarding myself, both emotionally and financially. I've learned that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail just to reclaim what's yours, even if it costs you everything you thought you knew about your life. The biggest lesson I take away is that betrayal cuts deep, but resilience can be even deeper. I've lost a lot, my home, my sense of security, and a part of my trust in people, but I've gained a new perspective. I see now that I can survive this. I can rebuild, and I will. I've started putting the pieces back together slowly but surely, knowing that the only way forward is to stay honest, stay vigilant, and never let anyone manipulate me again. I want others who are reading this to know it's okay to feel broken, to feel angry, and even to feel hopeless for a while. But it's also okay to stand up, fight back, and take control of your life again. Sometimes the only way to heal is to confront the truth head-on, no matter how painful it is. And in the end, I believe that truth will set you free. So I'm moving forward with a cautious hope. I'm focusing on my kids, my future, and rebuilding a life based on honesty and integrity. The scars will always be there, but they remind me of what I've survived and how far I've come. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I do know I'll face it stronger than I ever was before. And to anyone out there fighting their own battle, whether it's with betrayal, lies, or financial chaos, know this: you're not alone. Stand tall, fight for yourself, because in the end, nobody is coming to save you but yourself. And if I've learned anything from this mess, it's that resilience and honesty are the only things that truly matter.